Good afternoon, everyone. I'm trust that everybody and their families are doing extremely well. If any concerns, any major thing, sickness or anything, please send us a note. So there's some people on this club, and this club could do some things. It's free. So we could share or give our regards. But more importantly, this is a good day to be alive. It's a good day that we have tuned into a meeting of a great club, and I'm always proud when I have to represent or speak about this club, because I think it's just a great club with some lovely people, wonderful people who have good heart, great heart, big hearts. Some who were here way before I was here, who are constantly sharing their hearts, So we want to thank you. And you arrive at a wonderful place today. That's the bottom line I was trying to tell you. Whatever you was doing all week, or from last week to now, the road, this is it. You have arrived. All the stress you was having, you have arrived at the place. So with that in mind, I think we're looking forward to a great, exciting meeting today. Take it on, fabulous Samita.
Well, thank you, fabulous President Stephen Dean. It's always good just being in the room with some marvelous people. And I mean, President Stephen Dean, you always get us started moving, excited, empowered to press, to push, and to achieve greatness. We are steered by Captain Stephen Dean, who have members that strive to bring excitement to this Rotary Drive. Oh yeah. Put your hands up in the air, because Rotary Nassau Club is here. Indeed, we are expecting great things for this club. 2 days ago, I dreamt that we met face to face for a club meeting, and it was in a very big room packed with members and new members. A lady came to me and said, "Do you have $35 for the application?" Darren, if you're here, I don't know the significance of 35, but that is the number. So nevertheless, if I was in church, I would say, don't go box that 35. But nevertheless, we're expecting great things to happen for the remainder of the Club of Nassau year. With that said, this is the right time to bow for prayer. Let us bow for the Rotary Grace. Friends, again, we break bread together and unite our hearts in humble gratitude. May this happy meeting of the minds fully express in thought, word, and deed our steadfast devotion to the divine ideal of universal brotherhood and peace. Amen. Amen. Our loyal toast will be led by the most beautiful, compassionate Lady Royan. If she's in the house, unmute.
So fellow Rotarians and guests, please raise your glasses and join me in a toast to the Queen and the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
The Queen and the Commonwealth of the
Bahamas.
Thank you, Lady Rotarian Chantel. By now, you should be relaxed and excited about the continuous journey ahead. Coming now to make you ever feel more special in our virtual room that is always warm and cozy is no one other than our public relations officer, Vibrant, the Honorable Darren.
President Stephen, you may have to step in. I don't see Darren either.
All right, that's fine. I think, we do understand sometimes emergencies come up with some of our people, but, we must go on. And that's the word and value of the club, that we can move on. We also always delighted to have people, persons among us, visiting among us today. And it's always a great place to be, as the case may be. So we are delighted that you are here. We're delighted that you are present. And I hope that your imaginations based on the topic would have been stimulated. And by the time it's completed, your curiosity would have been fulfilled. Do we have any visiting Rotarians today?
Looks like PP Kim is just joining. From the Rotary Club of Providenciales.
Good afternoon.
Kim, it's a pleasure to have you here. Could you say hello from TCI?
Thank you, and greetings from Tres Caicos.
What's the weather like over there?
Partly cloudy, but hot.
Okay, thank you. Well, we know where you are. That's why you can't show your face. We know you're near the beach. Water's running up on your legs. So we good. Having a good time. Enjoy. I ain't saying no more. Good.
No, but you're right though.
I'm right?
Yes, you are.
Wow. Boy. Wow. Sounds good. Rotarians, do you have any guests? Have you invited any guests today?
Kelly, did you bring any guests on with you?
I certainly shared the flyer on social media. So if anyone here would have joined because of that, I would hope that they would make themselves known at this time. But I didn't directly invite anyone.
Okay, Jeff, did your guest surface today? Show up today?
No, unfortunately, had a meeting to attend, so he will join us next time.
Okay, that's great. I know Jeff was working hard on a guest coming, and I'm sure we look forward at our next meeting that guest will be in. So, we wouldn't prolong much longer. I mean, I just want you to let your hair down, enjoy yourself. This is a 1 hour less stress moment. So just feel good about it. You have your coffee nearby or water nearby. There's the only two things I underline or a soft drink. I will underline those 7 things. All right.
How about tea? I got tea.
Yeah, tea is fine. I don't want to stretch it because next thing I'll have to tell you unmute your mic because you start saying some things. All right. So we don't.
Hello. I join you also. I have some tea too.
Okay, that's tea. Okay, that's good. That's good. All right. Send everybody the tea.
I don't have a guest with me, but what I would like to do is to thank you all for the condolences you gave to a past guest of ours.
Yes.
Alan Benjamin. Thank you. Yes. Thank you for all the condolences.
Yes, Larry. That's Benjamin, right? Yes. Our dear friend Benjamin, who is many of you might remember, who used to come with Larry at our meetings, condolences goes out to him. Larry, I want you to be strong. It seems like y'all were just good friends, good brothers, everything. You brought it, y'all came together and sat together, I remember those moments, when we were in person,
Great.
Yeah, very nice, pleasant individual, we ran some conversations from time to time. So, our sincere sympathies go out to him, Larry. And if you need to touch base with us for anything, please reach out. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. With that said, Samita, it's back in your hands.
Thank you so much, President Stephen Dean. Kelly, I don't know if you're part of any Rotary Club, but as you can see, this club is dynamic and filled with some wonderful individuals. So I'm hoping by the time you're finished with your presentation and this meeting is over, that you knock on President Stephen's door and say, look here, I'm ready, I'm excited, I'm coming on board. But with that said, in this club, we have so many individuals that wear so many hats. And today, wearing so many hats is none other than Rotarian Chantel, the innovative, beautiful, athletic Rotarian Chantel, who will now share our Rotary moment for today.
This will be the end of one disease, but a new chapter in Rotary. A chapter where sustainability is front and center. Sustainability has become the watchword of Rotary because we want the good to last. We want our world to be better, not just here, not just for us, for everyone, for generations. So I'm asking you to be the inspiration to move Rotary from reaction to action, to take a hard look at the environmental issues that affect our health and our welfare, to do what we can to make a difference. Sustainable service means looking at everything as part of a larger system, as part of a larger global ecology. It means helping to build stronger and more resilient communities. It means doing everything that we can to make sure that the good we do now is leading to better lives tomorrow and beyond. So I'm asking you to be the inspiration in your clubs, in your districts, to show them what we can do what we can be. To be the inspiration to your countries, to your communities, by coming together, taking action to create lasting change. I'm asking you to be the inspiration because together we will inspire the world. And I thank you for everything you're going to do to make our world a better place next year. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. I mean, I feel like jumping up out of my seat because that was dynamic. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. If I was sleeping right now, I would be wide awake. Be the inspiration. Move Rotary from reaction to action. I love it. I love it. And I just want to say amen as I call President Stephen back on to further take us into some remarks and announcement. President Stephen.
Samita, I totally agree with you. It was very powerful. You know, Barry is always on his game. For those of you who don't know who Barry is, he's past Rotary International President of Rotary in the entire world. He was, you know, a Bahamian, but Rotary was in charge of Rotary entire world. That's just showing that the skies are the limits that we can come. Sometimes we shortchange ourselves for who we are, you know, but we are doing some wonderful things and we are always proud. Barry represented us extremely well. And I can spend all day just talking about him and just listening to him. Always some inspirational words. When you see him, yeah. Sometimes I'm being a little distracted because sometimes balloons is getting my eyes, and I'm a little allergic to balloons. So I know I see balloons somewhere, but I'll get to that. All right. but we're having a good day. And Rotarians, I'm always proud, glad that all of you here. I'm always proud of this great club of the Rotary Club of Nassau, and you know, and this will live on after Stephen Dean. This club will live on. So I just am proud for all the work that you do, the conversations that you have, because many of you speak about Rotary. Because I get some little whispers now and then, you know, someone was bragging about your club. Someone was bragging about the great club in Nassau. So, that, you know, we are the first club in the Bahamas. So this club will always be on. Nobody can unwrite that script, you know. So I can tell you, when the high courts of justice of history meet one day, the Rotary Club of Nassau will be high on the agenda. And every member, they're going to take their time and say, let's talk about this historical club. And every member name will be called when the high courts of history meet at some point. Thank you. Thank you. And also, what I want to do, I want to commend our members who constantly still going out to the vaccine centers. They constantly work and volunteer in their time. More members, persons are needed, so you can click on to the site and, you know, give an hour, get 4 hours here of your time. It is greatly appreciated. And I'm telling you, what people are talking extremely well about Rotary and how the process is going so smooth, and that's what we're all about. I tell them, if you become a part of the Rotary Club, that's a natural thing that happens to you. That's a natural behavior once you become a part of the Rotary Club of Nassau. And also, what is high on the agenda, Rotarians, particularly some of our new Rotarians, training. There is training on the Rotary. Chantel or Sheila, I want you to talk about the training that is available. And I think every member should sign up for this. It is critical. Every member should get this 1 hour or 2 hours training in at your own time. It's important. Either one of you start the ball. Give a little tip. 1 second.
I will say something. I think Chantel put something on the
yes, that's what
on the chat to show you. I think it's 9 different courses, and especially for the incoming board, but really for everybody, but really more especially too for the new members, because there's some there about Rotary General, and then some things about the foundation, which we're always trying to sort of educate you about. So, and remember, we do have a competition going on for the clubs for 70-20, and it's completing at the end of this month. And there are a lot of things that we have to complete, and we have done many of these, and we thank you all for your assistance in these, but this is one of the things that they are requiring, that there are several people who take one of these courses. I think they're just about an hour, answer some questions, get a certificate, and you could submit the certificate to me or Chantel or President Dean so that we can get credit, because we need this particular segment in order to get credit. We have a lot of other things that are not necessarily required, but this is a requirement. So we really need, and it needs to be completed by the 30th of this month. And we ask you to really do it as soon as possible, because so we don't want it to be on the 30th, because that's when he has to submit it, all of the things. So within the next week or so, if you can possibly do it.
Okay, thank you, Joan, for giving that overview. But Joan, you missed out something. Tell them they can have ice cream, they can have a nice meal, they can have drinks. You got to put some little spice in that. Add that little.
You can do all that while you're doing the course, and then give yourself.
No, tell them that comes with the course virtually. All the drinks.
Okay. All right, food, virtually.
So you can enjoy yourself. You know, I want to be, because when people hear training, they say, no, we want to make sure it's exciting that you can do. But I would advise, particularly all of our new members, take advantage of that training. You will never be the same again. You run through those courses. Thank you. And if you want testimonies, you could ask like Joan and Sheila, and you could ask Chantel and others who have done it and get your little certificate. And that is good. That you can put on your file. You can get into your boss too at work where you work, and just tell them this, add this to my PF, you know, I'm building up some things, you know. I don't want just six certificates to be on my form, my file. I want some other things there. Thank you. Great. Just one other final note on the conference, the district conference. You have seen the information in the group to sign up for the district conference. It is important that you signed up. It's going to be virtual, but so you will not be going in person, and so that's a plus, and in some degree for some person from a financial perspective. But I would advise you to, as of today, go on there and sign up. And you know, it'd be a good thing if you could just flip a note back, say, I am ready. I've signed up. Let's get that ball. Let's get that campaign rolling today, and the training campaign, and pull up your certificate. Say, I've taken my certificate. We are good. We're gonna have a good time. So I just implore you to look at those issues, look at those points, and we should be good. So thank you for your support. Thanks for everything that exists. And you know, I was about to close, but I don't think I will live this down if I don't do something today. We have an important ceremony today, and you know, I'm glad that I'm the officiant, you know, of the ceremony today. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to make welcome. We have a special man. You know when we feel good, when we have birthdays, because you know, I don't know where that hall is that the individual have in the background. It's a hall that they have set up. She's just not showing you the tables. I think that she will give the special invites to the persons, you know, but not you as member of Rotary. You can be out. Suite 16. Okay, that's fine. You know, Rotary Club force you to dream, you know. You've just come with all kind of numbers sometimes, you know. That's the good thing with this club. And to tell that she had a nice dream and she came up with Suite 16. We ain't gonna challenge you for that. We ain't gonna argue with you on that, but that is great. Ladies and gentlemen, the big birthday girl today is Tamika. Let's give her a round of applause, Tamika, and let's let the music roll.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Oh yeah.
Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
My birthday, come again. My birthday, come again. My birthday, come again. How old am I now? Birthday, come again. My birthday, come again. My birthday, come again. So I can party all night.
Okay, Tamika, the fact that you're on the screen, we need you to say something. We can't let the birthday girl get away.
President Stephen, can I
God is good. I am thankful for this birthday. Last birthday, I was on lockdown. And this year, I am free, and I am blessed, and I am healthy, and I'm so happy this year. I can say that being a Rotarian, this is the best club ever. And no better way to celebrate a part of my birthday than to celebrate with you all. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Mike, you were about to say something?
Yeah, just interject that by this time next week, we should have the order of Rotary Club of Nassau face masks. Anybody wanting to purchase can just get in touch with you.
Okay, Mike, we'll do that. But I was short challenge the birthday girl. She was saying something at the end. We didn't hear that because I won't miss announcements with her. You know? Birthday girl, have you finished?
Yes, I was just saying it's just good to be in the house and celebrate my birthday with the best club ever. You all rock, and you definitely make me feel part of a family. And I'm so happy that you could celebrate my sweet 16 with me. Thank you so much.
I'm trying to solve a clue. Is that cake real? Okay, thank you. Yeah, Mike, yeah, thank you, Tamika. And we're so proud to have you. We love you in this club. You've infused this club with your personality. You was one of the grain of salt that has seasoned the club. All right. So thank you. We're glad to have you. And brother Mike, you say Mike have some Rotary masks. That's what you're saying, Mike, right? What is happening? We have some additional Rotary masks. The masks are only at $15 for those of you who don't have Rotary masks, or if you need another one. In a week's time, we should have them, and we will tell you from the site where you can collect them and who you can see to collect those masks. So thank you very much. And we feeling good with things, and we just going on. I can swing it right back to Samita right now.
Tommy, you have me weak, but because this is your special day, all the candy, there's plenty candy in this jar just for you, this lollipop. And because it's your special day, I had to Google what other star quality was born on today. And guess what? Luther Vandross. I can't sing my love. It's only, you gotta let your husband sing that to you, girl. But it's your birthday. It's your birthday.
She ready to sing now.
She ready to sing now. But I'm understanding from Rotarian Chantel that we just had a guest that logged in all the way from Bermuda. Jean Acol. If you are there, just unmute and say hello.
Just say a word.
Say a word. All the way.
Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy birthday to the birthday girl. My name is Jean Acol from the Hamilton Rotary Club here in Bermuda. We actually just concluded our meeting about 30 minutes ago. So I'm happy to be here. Someone extended the invitation to me about 5 minutes ago, so I decided to join in.
Well, thank you.
We're so happy to have you. You know, what's the weather like in Bermuda right now?
It's definitely warming up now, but unfortunately we are all in lockdown for probably the next 2 weeks. Wow. We had a spike in our cases, so we had to get back into shelter in place.
Right.
But besides that, I think it's getting better now. The weather is definitely getting much better, definitely gearing towards summertime.
We like to share experience. What lockdown entertainment do you have when you're in lockdown?
Personally, because April is probably my busiest month in the year, so there's not much entertainment, but it's allowed me to spend much more time with my 4-year-old son, so we get to fun games to play.
Excellent. We are glad to have you, and we are delighted anytime to join in, you know, when you need a stress buster or you need to just ease some pressure, this is the place to come, you know, and enjoy yourself.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much once again for joining in. Unfortunately, I had a big grand introduction for our next item. And, you know, my introduction for the Honorable Darren would have been that perhaps one day soon, because of his entertainment, he's going to appear on the Steve Harvey Show. Well, I guess he probably took a plane ticket, took a flight, and he's at Steve Harvey Show now because his jokes are so hilarious, like the young people would say. Nevertheless, President Stephen, I don't think I would go on the entertainment line. We've had enough entertainment so far. But if you came after the president spoke, then please practice the 4-way test. And please make sure that you deliver your $1 or $2 to our treasurer. Additionally, if you're not wearing your rotary pin or you have your rotary mask or something symbolic of Rotary, you are also fine. There you go. I think I did well on that, right, President Stephen Dean?
Yeah,
Anybody fine, you think?
you're doing extremely well. You just gotta use that chariot to collect the fines.
I'll use that chariot to collect the funds. Thank you so much. But now it's time for us to just sit back more, relax, sip our tea or coffee or water or whatever it is, as we are about to be engaged with such dynamic information coming from a young, beautiful young lady in the person of Kelli Armstrong, who is the 2021 Climate Ambassador of the Global Youth Climate Network for the Bahamas. She, among many, is the voice of climate change. Voices like 16-year-old Gertrude from Tanzania, who stated, "You might think that you are out the risks and realities of climate change, but we see its effect in our lives daily." Coming to introduce our guest speaker is the beautiful, intelligent Rotarian Zalika. Immediately following, our guest speaker will come on to challenge us and to empower us today.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be introducing Kelli Armstrong to you today. She attended the University of the Bahamas as a chemistry major, and that's where she first became captivated with ecology during a class field trip. And she transferred her credits from the University of the Bahamas to Acadia University in Canada, and she earned a Bachelor's of Science degree in environmental science. And that's really where her passion for sustainability blossomed. Kelli was one of two students who was invited to represent Acadia at the 2011 Impact Youth Conference on Sustainability in Canada. And she later became an awarded environmental science student, organization executive, and student representative council for equity. And she received the Gandhi Award and Acadia Students Union Leadership Award, so many awards. Kelli also received a full scholarship for a master's degree in climate and society at Columbia University, which is my alma mater as well. So hi, Kelli. And she was retained there as a senior research staff assistant to develop further applications for data and information that she collected on climate and disaster risk. You'll note that she returned to New Providence immediately afterwards, and she began working with the Caribbean Coastal Services, CCS, where she conducted environmental assessments and coordinated teams for various technical consultancies. Kelli was promoted in 2020 to project manager for Born, which is a parent company of CCN, and she continued to support the environmental team as well as lead climate risk and vulnerability assessments. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Kelli completed an online course from the United Nations in climate change, adaptation and mitigation in fisheries and aquaculture, and integrated climate risk information into national adaptation plans. Kelli's a climate ambassador for the Bahamas, as was previously mentioned. She's a dedicated ambassador locally to local climate action. She raises awareness about climate change and impacts, and she tries to find ways to reduce our carbon footprint. As we recognize Earth Day on April 22nd, so that's coming up in just a few days, please mark your calendars. I'd like you to join me in welcoming Ms. Kelli Armstrong to discuss climate change and health with us today. Welcome, Kelli.
Thank you all so much for that welcome. I mean, straight from Chantel to President Stephen, Samita, Zalika, thank you all so much. I definitely feel warm and cozy to use Samita's words. All right, so again, thank you today for inviting me to speak on climate change and health. Rotarian Nadia had informed me that you all are celebrating maternal and child health this month. So I'm gonna try to tie that into the theme of things as we focus on climate change and celebration of Earth Day and the call to climate action. So I like to begin my presentations by going over a few terms related to climate change, because I know there are some of us who may be a little bit confused about what the difference is between weather and climate, between global warming and climate change, and then what really are climate change impacts anyway, right? There are some things that we've always been experiencing, and yes, we realize that they are getting worse, but what does that really mean? So first, allow me to start with the weather. So as we are aware, the weather is the state of the atmosphere, and it can change from day to day. For example, yesterday was very sunny and hot. Today it's still hot, but it's not as sunny because it's a little bit more cloudy, right? And there are various reasons for that. But as the state of the atmosphere, the conditions that we observe from day to day change, that's very normal. That's the weather. It can change from day to day, all right? Now, when we talk about climate, that is specifically referring to these observations of the atmosphere over a long period of time, typically 30 years or more, and they are at a specific location. So for example, the weather here in Nassau and the weather in Alabama may be the same today, but the climate in Alabama and the climate in Nassau will never be the same because we refer to a very specific location, all right? So again, the climate in the Bahamas is known to be typically very warm and sunny. We have a distinct wet season and dry season. Hurricane season falls within that warm season, sorry, that wet season. So we can predict, or rather we have an average that we can know about what our climate is. And that's typically what we tell our tourists when they come to visit. They can expect the weather to be warm and sunny because on the average, that's typically what our weather would produce. But there again are off days when the weather doesn't produce that. So there are anomalies, but typically our climate, the average conditions of our atmosphere are warm and sunny, right? Now, when we talk about global warming, so global warming, unbeknownst to many people, is actually a very natural phenomenon. So we get incoming solar radiation, or what we call insolation, from the sun, which is basically the energy that we get from the sun in the form of heat and light. That energy is re-radiated, or basically reflected by the Earth back into the atmosphere. And some of that heat escapes further into space, but some of it is also trapped by this natural layer of what we call greenhouse gases. And that includes carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, sulfur dioxide, and some others, methane as well. So again, some of that heat passes through and escapes further out into space, but because of that layer of gases, some of that heat is also absorbed and even reflected back to the Earth. And that's where we get a lot of our heat from, the heat that's trapped by that natural layer of greenhouse gases. Now, again, global warming is a natural phenomenon. There's nothing wrong with global warming. However, when we use the term more so nowadays, we're referring to anthropogenic global warming, meaning global warming that's caused by humans or human-induced. You might hear that term used frequently as well. Now, when we talk about anthropogenic global warming, we are referring to an enhanced greenhouse gas effect. Because of our extreme use of, or rather our extreme dependence on fossil fuels, we have a lot of fossil fuel emissions that also are made up of these gases, similar to those that are in this greenhouse layer. So when we emit fossil fuel emissions, we also emit heat and more of these gases. And again, some of them get to escape further into space, but more of them are trapped by this layer that's already existing in the atmosphere, and they continue to add to that layer, trapping more heat and more gases as time goes on, as we use more and more fossil fuels, as we continue to emit those gases and heat. So that is what we call the anthropogenic global warming, or the enhanced greenhouse effect, because the Earth is getting warmer due to this layer of gases becoming thicker and trapping more heat. Now, when we talk about climate change impacts, what are the impacts to our climate based on this enhanced greenhouse gas effect, based on this human-induced or enhanced global warming? And unfortunately, especially for the Bahamas, they are mostly bad, right? So we are seeing, based on our observations of the climate, the way that it is shifting, we see more droughts, we see more flash floods, we see stronger or more intense hurricanes, and we are seeing sea level rise. And there are different reasons for this. One is because due to the atmosphere absorbing more heat, it has to distribute that heat in order to try to get rid of some of that energy. So that means that heat is absorbed in the land and in the oceans. And the oceans also retain a lot of heat, but it also emits a lot of heat back to the atmosphere again in the form of evaporation. So a lot of the source of rain around the world comes from the evaporation of bodies of water, whether that be the surface of oceans, rivers, lakes, etc. So one of the things in terms of climate change impacts that we're observing is that it becomes harder and harder to predict precipitation. We tend to see precipitation fall a little bit more radically, right? So therefore, if we go a certain amount of days without any rain, that can be very detrimental to our crops, for example, because we all know our crops need to be irrigated and watered regularly in order to be productive. And then when the rain comes down, it can be, again, very detrimental because it typically comes down in a flash flood, meaning you have a heavy volume of rain in a short period of time. So please give Basil a break, right? When we say it's going to rain and it doesn't, please give him a break. It's not his fault. This is very, very hard thing to do. It takes a lot of science, and we don't necessarily have all the tools that we need in order to be able to predict it for you to the best that we can in terms of, comparing if we did have all the tools that we did have. So please be patient with Basil and the rest of our meteorologists. It's actually a very, very complicated thing to do to predict the rain. So give them a break, okay? You can tell them I said that. But again, stronger hurricanes. Again, I think most of us are aware now that the increase in the heat content of the atmosphere and the oceans is what really drives hurricanes, is where hurricanes get their energy from, which is why we tend to see hurricanes become more popular around September and October, and our oceans are warmer. We have our air temperatures peak around midsummer, around July or so, but the oceans need some time to absorb that heat. So once they absorb that heat, we see the hurricanes really starting to strengthen around September, October, when the ocean heat is at the max. So that's the reason why hurricanes tend to be very popular around that time. And of course, sea level rise. What happens when the ocean, again, absorbs that heat is it expands. Like most things, when they absorb heat, they tend to expand, just like a boiling pot of water. So the sea level is rising, and then you have on top of it these stronger hurricanes, which means we have higher surges and more detrimental impacts. And then again, those are just some of the what we might categorize as primary impacts, but beyond that, you have secondary impacts such as coastal erosion, inundation, infrastructure damage and loss, and then even tertiary impacts that we look at, such as contamination of water supply and food shortages, or some shortage in availability or access to food that can impact our diet and therefore impact our health. So these things are very important to be aware of. All right. So how does climate change really affect our health? I have this nice little slide here that shows you a nice infographic where you see rising temperatures, more extreme weather, increasing carbon dioxide levels and rising sea levels, and again, some of the primary impacts, and then secondary and tertiary impacts further outside. So if we look closely at, for example, increasing carbon dioxide levels, carbon dioxide is one of those natural greenhouse gases that we are increasing heavily by our fossil fuel emissions. And it is known to have the greatest global warming potential, more than any other gas in the atmosphere, which is why we tend to focus on reducing our carbon footprint when we talk about the things that we can do to really affect climate change. So again, increasing our carbon dioxide levels results in things like environmental degradation and water and food supply impacts. When we look at environmental degradation, we see forced migration, civil conflict, and mental health impacts. We know that to be very true for our neighbors to the south, our Haitian neighbors, right? When there are, when they have certain droughts, floods, earthquakes, etc., when their environment is, doing worse than, it is, they are forced to migrate to seek a better way of life for themselves and their families. When we look at water and food supply impacts, you see malnutrition, diarrheal disease. When we look at water quality impacts from rising sea levels, you see cholera and some other, diseases and illnesses that I won't try to pronounce, leptospirosis, and again, harmful algal blooms, which can also affect our fisheries. When we talk about rising sea levels again, you also have an opportunity to increase allergens. We come from a population that is already suffering from a lot of sinus allergies, asthma, and some other respiratory impacts. And so we definitely want to know what we can do to affect that so that we can keep our risk low. When we look at more extreme weather, we see changes in vector ecology, things like malaria, dengue, right? Chikungunya and the West Nile virus are all spread by the mosquito, which is actually the deadliest animal on the planet. A lot of people are afraid of sharks, but you need to be more afraid of mosquitoes, right? So there are also encephalitis, hantavirus, Rift Valley fever, Lyme disease that are spread by ticks, right? So you need to not only worry about your health, but also the health of your pets, right? Your pets are very susceptible to being infected by ticks and becoming infected with Lyme disease. When we talk about more extreme weather again, we understand that there are some impacts to our air pollution. The volcano in St. Vincent and the Grenadines that recently erupted, you can look outside and see that your sky is a little bit more yellow than it was yesterday because we are becoming increasingly impacted by that eruption. The sulfates, not the sulfates, but the sulfur dioxide content from that eruption is in the air, and it will be for a while. And we're going to have to manage our air impacts very, very carefully, our air quality, in order to make sure that we decrease our risk of developing more respiratory infections and diseases and other complications. We are already fighting COVID-19, which, as you all are aware, is a respiratory disease. And so we have to be more careful about how we manage all of these other risks that we have no control over, right? But the things that we can control, those are the things that we can focus on. So when we look at rising temperatures, we see severe weather. And of course, as you're aware, that can result in injuries, fatalities, and again, more mental health impacts. And again, extreme heat, which is one that we might often take for granted. But when we are hot, we are very miserable, right? So again, mental health impacts, but also heat-related illness and death, cardiovascular failure, heat stress, right? Can lead from things as simple as dehydration, right? We don't drink enough water, or it could be as serious as a heat stroke, right? So we have to be very, very careful about these things. And just to highlight some additional notes on the side, drought can lead to crop failure as well as more fugitive dust emissions, right? We had some talk a few years back about the dust that we were experiencing from the Sahara, which is a normal seasonal occurrence. But again, because climate change is sort of exacerbating some of these existing issues that we're having with respiratory illnesses like COVID-19, these are the things that we have to be a little bit more conscious about so that we can manage them. And again, when we talk about water quality, there's a higher solubility of contaminants in our waters because of climate change, because the water has more heat, it has more energy, it's able to dissolve more of these contaminants. Just like you mix sugar in your tea, the hotter it is, the easier it is for that sugar to dissolve in your tea. So what does that mean for our water supply, right? We get our source of drinking water ultimately from the ocean. We also have to be conscious about what we're also consuming that's coming from the ocean, our groupers, our snappers, our barracuda, our conch, our crabs, and our whelks. If they're contaminated, then we're putting those same contaminants into our body. So we have to be very conscious about these things. And again, longer, warmer seasons mean more active storms and vectors for diseases, not just from humans. We transmit COVID-19 from each other as well as surfaces, to be fair, right? But also mosquitoes, right? I mentioned they are the deadliest animal on the planet. So we have to be very careful. Now, I don't say all of that to say that it's only doom and gloom and we're all going to die eventually, right? No, there is something that we can do about it, right? We all care about our quality of life while we're here on the planet Earth. And there are things that we can do to improve our quality of life and to combat the impacts of climate change. So what are some of the more popular climate interventions? For example, we talk a lot about mitigation and adaptation. When we talk about mitigation, we're specifically referring to decreasing a source of carbon emissions, fossil fuel emissions specifically, or increasing a sink of those fossil fuel emissions. And decreasing a source can be as simple as conserving fuel. For example, I live in the eastern part of New Providence and I work in the western part of New Providence. If I have to go to my office during the day, any errands that I have to run are done as I move from east to west on my way to the office, or as I move from west to east as I go back home. If I have to do something else after that, I'll wait for another day. I have to conserve my fuel. And of course, we have to reuse renewable energy as much as possible. A lot of people are getting into solar panels on their homes, even if it's just for their water heater. but try to mix your energy sources so that you can decrease your carbon footprint. And again, the Bahamas plastic ban is a fantastic thing. It helps us to reduce pollution that can end up in the oceans and end up in our landfills, and ultimately affects, our soil and our water as it breaks down those chemicals, and that, that we will ultimately consume because our food grows and, we get our water supply from the same source. But also, it also helps to reduce our carbon footprint. Plastic is actually an oil product. It's made from oil, right? The same oil that we burn and produce fossil fuel emissions with. So again, it reduces our pollution and reduces our carbon footprint. So these are all very good things. And again, we can plant more trees because trees use carbon dioxide, which is again a greenhouse gas that's produced from fossil fuel emissions, to absorb some of this carbon dioxide out of the air because they use it for food, and they produce oxygen in return, which of course will help to improve our air quality because oxygen is what we breathe, not carbon dioxide, right? We exhale carbon dioxide. So if we plant more trees, they're able to use more of that carbon dioxide to produce more oxygen and increase our air quality, all right? And when we think about adaptation, we think about coping mechanisms. What can we do to adjust and manage our risk? So one of the big things, water and food security issues, right, that we have that have been sort of highlighted during this pandemic, right? They challenge us to conserve our water, right? Water is not free, right? It's not a free resource. We pay a very nominal fee for it, but that's because the government actually subsidizes a very heavy portion of our water bill. A lot of people don't know that. So we have to conserve our water, and we have to employ sustainable farming and fishing practices. That means eating local and eating seasonal, all right? So when you hear about a season being proposed for conch, for example, conch are just as vulnerable as us to climate change, possibly even more because there's less that they can do about it, right? So if we really like conch as a local fishery, as a resource for our diet, then we also have to think about what we have to do to protect it, to ensure that our consumption is sustainable. And again, following best practices for disease and illness prevention, that includes policy considerations. For example, when we think about heat stress and we think about outdoor laborers like construction workers, it's not enough for us to just, tell them every day, hey man, make sure you're wearing your hat, make sure you wear some long sleeves to protect yourself from your sun exposure. We have to make sure that we write in our policies, especially for these larger infrastructure projects. They all have environmental impact assessments and environmental management plans. We have to take into considerations of our workers that, there's a certain amount of sun exposure that they should have a day. There's a certain PPE that they should have to further protect themselves against sun exposure. So when you are handing out your safety glasses, make sure that they're tinted to help protect their eyes. Things like that are small, but they can have very great impacts, positive impacts on our population. And then again, other things like personal protective equipment. When you go to take your son to the beach, when you go to the beach, make sure you put on your sunscreen. Make sure you wear your long sleeve rash guards to protect yourself from your sun exposure. Make sure you wear your hat. Make sure you stay hydrated. And of course, vaccinations. We're pro-vaccination, right? At the Bahamas Rotary Club, at all Rotary Clubs, we're pro-vaccination. So we know the impact that they can have on our health in a very positive way. And not just COVID-19, but for other illnesses as well. Some countries require when you travel, because of their high risk to vector-borne diseases, especially those from mosquitoes like malaria and West Nile and the like, they require you to get vaccinated before you can enter the country. So let's do everything that we can to help protect ourselves. And again, plant more trees, right? We can't understate how important planting trees are. They can help protect us by, helping to retain a lot of our soils, and our soils also help to sequester or a lot of carbon from the atmosphere is also deposited or stored rather in our soils from the trees when they absorb it into their systems. So we have to plant trees. And again, if we continue to build up the soil, that means we have less risk of coastal erosion when these hurricanes come. So you see, it's all about the cycle of life. The things that we do, the things that nature is doing to protect us naturally are being tested by climate change. So we have to help as much as we can. Let's continue to protect ourselves, protect our habitats. And I think that this is definitely a huge step forward in terms of raising our awareness about climate change. But the next step is actually taking climate action. So of course, we're celebrating Earth Day. And Earth Day, we're focusing on taking climate action. There are lots of local activities that we can participate in. To the far left, you see the Restore Our Earth theme is actually being put on by the Ministry of Environment and Housing. University of the Bahamas Small Islands Sustainability School also has a program of activities this week, as well as the Sustainable Lifestyle Group in collaboration with several other local NGOs, including Lashanti Jup, the Siren, Cat Island Conservation Institute, Mr. Kerwin Mullings, and some others. They're putting on a tree planting and beach cleanup this Saturday, and my son and I will be there. So I encourage you all to definitely, continue to be educated and raise your awareness on the impacts and the risks, but also don't be discouraged. There's lots that we can do, even here in our community, to affect the way that we're impacted by climate change and make a difference. All right. So thank you so much for that. And I hope you all have some questions. I'm more than happy to answer any of them.
Wow, thank you so much, Kelly. I was just sitting back, just in awe, as you were just presenting such knowledge, and I'm a proud Rotarian just to be in the room with a young individual as yourself who has so much and more to offer. I mean, we've heard about the voice of Gertrude from Tanzania and Greta Thunberg from Sweden, but we have here from the Bahamas our very own Kelli Armstrong. So I'm sure you're going to get some more kudos as time goes on. But you would have mentioned in terms of climate change interventions, mitigation, plant more trees, conserve fuel and use renewable resources, adaptation, cope, follow best practices for disease and illness prevention. And additionally, again, yes, plant more trees and take climate action. So if there are any questions for Kelli, who has so much wealth of knowledge to impart, please feel free to unmute your mic and ask questions at this time. No questions? Everybody's just blinging up the chat, Kelli, that you've done an outstanding job. Go ahead.
Hi, good day, Kelli. How you doing? That was a wonderful presentation. I'm happy to know that a Bahamian is here taking up the fight with environmental changes and educating Bahamian citizens. But I just wanted to ask, I've been seeing a trend in investments in water rights. I'm just wondering is there anything on our books to protect the public's interest in our water rights in case of worst case scenario, the water rises and we have limited access to fresh water? Because a lot of private companies are forming these conglomerates and buying up all the rights.
Oh, that is a very good question. So I think what you're asking me in terms of water rights, you just mean access to water. If the sea level is rising and it's going to encroach on persons' private property, what access do we have to that water?
Well, more or less, if our water is coming from areas that are under control by the government, right, Crown land, and in consideration as well, private property as well, because I know government can also buy interest in private property and buy out those water rights from private citizens in the interest of the wider public. So I'm just wondering, in that area of things, is there any attention being is that being addressed in any way, being considered legislation wise, or any other actions being taken? Because I've been seeing that trend.
Right. So I can't necessarily speak to our progress towards that, but I know that is something that the government is aware of. What the progress is towards policy to ensure that we have proper access and, understanding the eco and the climate justice issues regarding that. I can't speak to that progress, but I know that is something that's on the government agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
For a resource, I would encourage you to actually reach out to organizations like Waterkeepers Bahamas. They might be able to give you better information regarding that.
Okay, much appreciated.
Sure, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for the question. Kelli, before we move forward, you are the voice of the young generation. How would you encourage more individuals to engage and take an action in terms of being more sensitive, or in terms of what climate change is? How would you encourage persons here in the Bahamas to be more proactive, young individuals?
Sure. So I know we all have lots of competing priorities from a day-to-day, things that we need to focus on, things that we have to do to take care of ourselves and our families. And climate change is one of those, existential issues that, we know exists. I don't think anybody is really at this stage. I don't think anybody will outright deny that climate change is happening, right? Based on the things that we've experienced more recently. But it's just so hard to realize that you have this huge issue to deal with, and knowing that you're concerned with putting food on the table, finding a job, following COVID-19 protocols. There's so many other things that you're dealing with on the day-to-day. So I just like to bring it directly home. For example, how I made the connection to conch, right? Our waters are getting warmer. It's no coincidence that our fishermen are having to travel further and further away to find fish. Yes, we are overfishing our local waters, so they have to maybe travel further south in the Bahamas to find the types of catch that they would normally bring into New Providence. But it's also because the water is really hot, and if the water is hot, then the fish have to swim to deeper, cooler water, right? And so the conch that moves very, very slow, they are going to be impacted either way, because they can't just respond to a stimulus that quickly, right? So they're very slow moving organism. They're very sessile. They tend to live on the bottom, where all of the contaminants or all of the pollution in the water tends to settle, right? So we have to be very careful about how we use that resource, how we consume that resource. So there are other things that we've been doing, or not necessarily doing, but considering, like a season for conch. Like we have a season for grouper to protect the resource, give it time to rebound, to become healthy so that we can continue to fish it. They're also looking into things like, for example, conch fisheries, like on the land, right? And all of these things are we have to consider if we want to continue to consume conch. It's a very iconic representation of Bahamian culture. And to think that we wouldn't have that available one day is something very serious. So that's one thing that I like to drive home, because we know young people love their bamboo shack, they love their samis, right? You could imagine not being able to go to Fish Fry and order a conch snack or a conch dinner. Like, this is serious. Like, I want y'all to be as concerned as I am. So those are the types of things that the examples that we have to use to sort of communicate how dire it really is.
Kelli, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We could be here all day just asking so much questions, because this is knowledge, and knowledge is key. I am going to call now beautiful, all smiles Rotarian Catherine, who's going to further thank you.
Pleasant good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. Kelli, I must say that presentation was more than mind. It stimulated our minds, and it also fulfilled our curiosity, like President Dane said earlier. And just want to say on behalf of Rotarians and guests,
you can get fined for that.
I know. A special thank you for your presentation. I mean, I have learned so much in that short space of time, and I'm quite sure that everybody else did as well. And if that's some information that you can get to us, so we can look at it and we can read and we can learn it, know what's happening, yes. And also looking for these things that are happening around the world. I mean, especially in our country, planting more trees to help out. Okay, so thank you so much for your presentation, and just keep up the good work. I am really impressed by what you did, what you said, and hey, we are proud of you as a young Bahamian. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, go ahead. Thank you so much, Catherine. And Kelli, if you don't mind, just leave your number in the chat group or your email address, because I know we're against time, but there's some talks going out there about the recent volcano that took place, and my tongue may get twisted in calling the name of that country.
Tell her remain behind for the parking lot. We have a little couple.
Yes, we could remain behind, because definitely they said that we may be impacted by the dust, and we need to pray for rain. So if you can remain behind, and those others who could stay parked, you can answer that question. But let us now just do our four-way test, as Chantel puts that on the screen. And here we go, the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth?
The truth? Is it fair to all concerned?
Will it
build goodwill and benefit friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
All right,
Will
now
it be
we're
fun?
gonna
Will it be
have a-
fun?
Will it be
Fun.
fun? Yes, it's
Sound
gonna
like
be
y'all gonna have
fun.
fun.
Can't forget that one.
Lot
We'll
of
now
fun.
have Rotary
and just do Rotary toast around the world, and then closing out with the dynamic President Stephen.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes, you got it.
Yes, yes. Okay. Also, congratulations, Kelly. That was an excellent presentation. Also, I must say, I've heard a lot of the presentations about the environment and about climate change, but this is one of the best. And so proud to see a young Bahamian able to present it, these kind of information in such simple terms that you can easily understand and relate to our situation. So good job and keep it up. And I'm going to be following you. Yeah, you seem to know what you're talking about. So all Rotarians, grab your glass of water or tea or whatever you may have, a beverage or light beverage, like President Stephen said, and join me to Rotarians and guests that are here, along with Rotarians that are there. Let us join Rotarians everywhere and a toast to Rotary around the world.
Rotary around the world.
Great. First, we must give our coordinator for outstanding job, Samita. Let's give her a rousing round of applause. Help me welcome and congratulate Samita.
Good job, Samita.
We are really proud of you. We're extremely proud of you. And this is the Rotary spirit. Like you already employed by CNN, so I don't have to say along that line. You know, that's what happens, Kelly. We have a number of our people. They do their testing on here and their audition here, and then they get hired because they always calling me, asking me, you know. So no problem. So you might get being a correspondent soon, you know, environmental correspondent soon. So we are glad and thank you all of those who participate in this program today. Excellent. All those who came on, sacrificed some time. We appreciate all of you. Mostly appreciate it. Kelly, we appreciate you. I mean, I appreciate you. I mean, when I look at a Bahamian, sometimes we shortchange ourselves. We pay millions of dollars to invite these persons in to speak about what you can tell us, what you can show us, and we have it right among of us. So we can find a way. The fact that you've touched the Rotary Club of Nassau, we can find a way to constantly be uplifting your spirit and touching on you, you know. So we appreciate you. From time to time, you'll hear from us, and we will have some further conversation to look at maybe a project, environmental project you might suggest to us as a community, as a club that we can get the community involved in, and be prepared to support and help. So I want you to get your thinking cap on and come up with some ideas for us, and we'll be very proud, happy to support you. So everyone, we are really thankful. I think I saw Raquel had a question in. Raquel, you had something there with the account closure? Still there?
Yeah, my question was, what do we need to do to for them to have a closed count season, like how we have with the group home? Like, I just need to know, what do we need to do so we could get that started?
So there's actually an older campaign that the Bahamas National Trust was advocating for called Conservation. So I would encourage you to reach out to them to find out where they're at with that campaign and see what you can do to support that. Because I think that was definitely one of the interventions that was proposed in terms of making sure that we conserve conch.
Was that Conservation, Bahamas National Trust?
Yes, the Bahamas National Trust had a campaign called Conservation. So I would reach out to the Bahamas National Trust to find out how you can help.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Kelly, I have a question. My son told me that he was taught in school that in the next couple of years, some of our islands will be eroded due to this environmental change. I just need to know the names of islands would likely to go, so I don't be there. You could help me with that?
Well, we're hoping we don't have to name them, Stephen, if we take the climate action that's necessary now, right? But yes, that is something that we will face, hopefully not so soon, but it is predicted that by the end of the century, some 80% of the landmass of the islands of the Bahamas could potentially be inundated. And so that is a very, very scary statistic. And that's due to sea level rise and of course, some of the other, again, secondary, tertiary impacts that I was explaining because of the damage that our habitats, our environment faces due to storms and hurricanes, the coastal erosion and you know, the beaches and the toppling of the trees, all of that really helps to protect us. So we have to figure out how to help protect it now because the environment needs our help.
Okay. How do we start in our very environment like around our homes? Anything we can do there?
You could plant some trees.
Plant some
You
trees.
could plant some trees. I don't know if anyone lives in any areas that flood, and whether that flooding is due to, you not necessarily having proper drainage, for example. I think one of the activities, and this is across the Caribbean, that people tend to take for granted is how impactful it is when we just put our drainage system on a regular maintenance schedule, cleaning our drains, right? That can have a huge impact on our flood risk. Cleaning drains is one thing, right? If you have them, but if you don't have them, there's so many impervious surfaces in our neighborhoods now, not just the roads, but we have sidewalks, we have park infrastructure. When we have these heavy rains, is there really anywhere for the water to go, right? So if we don't have drains, we need to look into making sure we get some drains in our neighborhoods, right? And again, planting trees where possible will definitely help, because if you have more trees in your yard, then you have more thirsty vegetation that would help to soak up more of that water a little bit quicker. So, these are just, some of the things that just naturally make sense. And I tend to communicate in a lot of my talks that, we know what to do. We've been doing these things from the beginning of time, but as we continue to advance with the technology in our society, some of these things get lost because we're used to communicating them in more traditional ways. So we have to figure out how to use our technology now to communicate these things of old, these traditional things, so they don't die with us.
Good. What about how good is the well water in New Providence?
So if we're talking about individual private wells, or we're talking about like aquifers, like our
private wells?
Private wells. Oh, so I think most people probably need to get their wells tested. I'm not so confident that the quality of well water is very good across the board. And that's because people don't test it, so they don't know, right, when it's contaminated. But that's also part of the reason why there's been such a big push recently by water and sewage in the last few years for persons to switch to potable city supplied pipe water, right? Because a lot of the wells are being impacted. And the water quality is not good. So we have to make sure, again, that we protect ourselves. That's not just water that we could put on the stove and boil and get some of the contaminants out. Remember, we bathe in that water, and our skin is our biggest organ on our body. We're directly, taking in that water from our showers. So it's not just about being able to sanitize, not necessarily sanitize the water, but boil the water and, reduce the contamination so that we can use it to prepare our meals. But we shower in that water every day. So we have to be very, very careful and mindful about these things. So for me, who's trying to save some energy and save my electricity bills, if I use it when I wash my clothes, that's fine? You could wash your clothes in it. The detergent is there. It does its job, it'll help combat what it needs to combat. I don't know what your rust content might be like in your well, or, you might have some other issues. But for the most part, it should be safe to wash your clothes. But like I said, I encourage you, if you're using well water, get it tested, just so you could know what to do from there. If you need to treat it, or if it's too far to a point where, remediation may not necessarily be a viable option and you need to switch to city supplied water. Where can I get testing? Any places who tests around? Yes. So you can get, I think, the Department of Environmental Health Services. Okay. If you contact them, they can come out. I think the MRAD lab, I have a contact for that, so I can give that to Nadia. Yeah. They have persons who can come out and test your well water. And again, if you're interested in switching, you can contact Water and Sewage to figure out what you have to do to switch to pipe supplied water. The water that people drink in the communities, the water stand that the government has put there. The pumps. Yeah. The pump. Yeah, I'm trying to be I forget, down home. The pump. How safe are them? Are they just as equal as the water that you're getting right from your home, where the government has the connection there? I get a little skeptical with that water. No, as you should be. But to my knowledge, because that is a community supplied resource by the government to ensure that persons, for the general public has access to water and not necessarily a private well in your backyard. Right. I do believe that the environmental health regularly checks that water.
But Kelli, they do. I can stand to say that, along with water and sewage. We've done a few missions with them before, and they are adamant that those water, they're tested. They make sure that they're pure.
They even say you could drink from them. I mean,
All right, you could drink from there. But I think it's really interesting what you're talking about and how we are looking at, So how you see with our beaches? Any problems you noticing with the beaches?
So yeah, again, like I said, because of the frequency and the strength of the storms that we're experiencing nowadays, our beaches need a little help. You would see, what was that? Almost 10, more than 10 years ago now. When I was in undergrad, I actually did a project on the social impact analysis of the Saunders Beach beautification project, because I realized that there was a lot of resistance to cutting down casuarina trees, and there actually still is. A few months ago, they had cut down some trees on Yamacraw Beach, and there was a lot of discontent expressed by the community because, the beach is now bare. And people sort of, they like the nostalgia that's created by casuarina trees, and, we understand it or appreciate it to be sort of a part of, the island scene, but it's not really a natural part of that scene. That's something that it was more, I guess, familiar in modern Bahamian history. Casuarina trees, or we more commonly call them Australian pine, is from Australia, and they were actually intentionally brought to Florida to help soak up the Everglades. So they're very thirsty trees, and they don't belong on our beaches, because what they actually do, in addition to affecting the water availability, they actually have these resins that are emitted from the roots of the trees that essentially poison other native trees for the sake of competition, so that nothing else can grow around them. So they establish their own community on the beach. If you realize, whenever you see a stand of casuarina trees, there's no other native trees around it for a good space, for a good distance. So that's why we make sure whenever we do beautification projects or beach enhancement projects, we always take down all the casuarina trees first, because we know that they're not supposed to be there. We plant native trees that have deeper roots that can hold some of the soil, so when the storms come, they can help. And it's the hope that the sediment from the ocean is just continue to be built upon the land, that will further protect the infrastructure behind that dune system, as opposed to washing it away. Again, the root system of the casuarina trees or the Australian pine is very shallow. That's why when we have storms, they're the first things to topple over on the beach, and then they topple over on our homes and our infrastructure, and they cause further damage. So that's why one of the first things we do when we have a beautification or a beach enhancement project, the first thing we do is get rid of those casuarina trees, because they don't belong there. And they're very easily transported by wind. They're seeds that are quite a nuisance if you go on the beach and you step on them, right? But they're very light and they're very easily transported by wind. And that's how we believe that they got to the Bahamas. They probably transported like by ocean currents or by wind. And that's probably how they got here. But no, they don't belong in our beach ecosystem.
Wow. So what type of trees? You said plant some trees in your yard. What I should plant in my yard?
Man, whatever you like to eat. It don't make sense you just plant the tree for planting tree's sake, right? So whatever you like to eat. Don't fruit trees also increase your property value? So plant whatever you like to eat. My son likes sapodilla, so I planted some sapodilla during the pandemic. I also planted some lime, because you use that for everything, right?
I agree.
You clean your meat with lime, you season your food with lime. And I also planted some avocado, because I really like avocado. So yeah, man.
Makes sense.
Right, exactly. So I mean, there's so many options. And again, I was mentioning planting trees because some other young people who started the Sustainable Lifestyle Group, they're also involved with the Caribbean Alliance that's planting 1 million trees in the Caribbean. I think it's the Caribbean Philanthropic Alliance or something like that. They have a big project where they're trying to plant 1 million trees. I think their target was by the end of 2020, which we know is already gone, but they still have lots of trees to give away. So that's another contact that I can give Nadia to give to you all. If you're interested in getting some fruit trees from them, they have fruit trees to give away. You could plant in your yard. You can give them away to somebody else, right? And all they ask is that when you plant it, you take care of it, obviously. So they're not going to necessarily follow up on the progress of your tree, but just to make sure that you did actually plant the tree, so that they can put it towards their account. So that's a very good initiative, and it's led by more young Bahamian people.
Okay.
So yes, I'll send the contact for that as well.
Excellent. Excellent. You got a lot of work to do.
Actually the ones who are helping to organize the tree planting that's happening on Saturday. So I'll send Nadia my presentation as well, so you all can get that information if you're interested in coming out. Like I said, my son and I will be there.
Where's this going to be?
So it is actually on Saunders Beach, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Saunders Beach on Saturday from 10 to 12.
Okay.
And prior to that, they're actually doing a trash data collection survey. So if anybody is completely free on Saturday morning and they want to participate in these activities, especially if you have children who are interested in this type of stuff,
Right.
go out to Saunders Beach, and we can definitely occupy their time from 8 to 12.
Oh, that's great.
And of course, since it's getting very warm, make sure they have their proper sun protection, sunscreen, some water, a hat.
Yes.
Exactly. We don't want anybody getting dehydrated while we're out there.
Oh, you say you send the contact. So
Yes, I will.
Rotarians, like Sheila and Chantel, who's behind the scene, we're looking for this environmental initiative. So I believe some of us could go there on Saturday morning to put our time there.
Absolutely. And for the duration of my program as climate ambassador, I also have to commit a certain amount of time to do certain activities. So like you had mentioned before, if you'd like to come up with a program together, something else that we can do, I'm more than happy to invite you with that opportunity as well.
No,
Yes.
no question about that. You'll definitely hear from us. You'll definitely hear from us on that. We want to be involved in that because the environment is going to be a major focus of Rotary in coming years, particularly this year. So we definitely will have to work with you for the number of projects.
Excellent. Happy to.
Yeah, you answered our prayers.
Happy to. Thank you again for having me.
Other persons, anything? Maxine, you get a big farm in the back of your yard. You don't have no questions?
No, I'm here listening. I'm not. I love trees and I planted 1 million of them. They don't all love me, I guess, because I don't care for them like I should. So as I sat listening to Kelly, I was like, I really need to find a way to make an investment in some sort of an irrigation system because I'm not committed to watering trees. So maybe she could tell me whether or not irrigation systems are good for the environment.
Sure. So there are definitely some DIY at-home ones. You could probably like Google, but that ain't so bad. Watering trees, like for me, honestly, like I'm not a morning person. I only became a morning person during the pandemic. But one of my activities I do in the morning now is to go out and water my plants. That helps to, get me moving and get my brain activated so I could get my day started. But I hear you. But yeah, there definitely irrigation is definitely an option. I just say if you decide to use like an automatic system, make sure you pay very careful attention to the timer so that you don't overwater your plants and end up wasting water, like giving them more water than they need. And making sure that you get the timing right, just so that you can conserve your water and don't overwater your plants. Because not only just about the conservation water, but of course, if you overwater your plants, that's just as bad as underwatering them, right? We have to make sure you get enough water and make sure all your plants are sufficiently watered. If you use the automatic system, but no, there's nothing wrong with it. Just be careful with the timing. Watch the timing to make sure that they're getting what they need.
Okay, thank you very, very much. And I just want to say that you're a very amazing woman. Like highly qualified, talented, articulate, and it was a pleasure listening to you speak today. And I also heard you speak, I would say at BSherm, Disrupt HR maybe?
Yes.
So this is the second time I'm this privileged.
Thank you so much, Ms. Maxine. I appreciate that comment. Thank you.
Oh, sounds good. I thought it was very, very informative, very interesting. We're proud of you. That's why you see us don't even want to leave, We are extremely proud of you, and I mean, you very, and you could listen just how you speak, just how you give an account of yourself. You know your craft, you know your stuff. I can listen to you all day, I could sacrifice my NBA game just to hear you,
Much appreciated.
Pretty good.
Thank you.
Rotarians, any other final questions? Larry, anything you want to ask? Say to our guests, anything? Nadia, thank you for bringing this gem of a women, particularly to hear from us. You're doing good, Nadia.
With Chantel's help, Kelly is amazing.
And the information today was captivating as well too. The presenter was excellent and in depth. I kind of read up on these things often for the environment, but she went a little deeper than I even knew.
No question about it. I just love it. I can have to go back and Chantel, as soon as you get the recording, I'll have to go back and that presentation again. It's very good.
And please continue to reach out to me, especially if you're on social media, because that's where I'm connected to most of the other environmental organizations, especially those that are operating locally. There are actually quite a few. And if you are like very interested in this type of content, I am a member of a group on Facebook called Bahamians Educated in Natural and Geographical Sciences. And we always post opportunities about, information sessions, lectures related to environmental content, also scholarship opportunities. So if you know students who are interested in studying about the environment and sustainability, that would definitely be a good resource for them. Other opportunities to volunteer and doing work associated with, programs and activities with Bahamas National Trust Brief. If you have, children in high school always need community service activities and they don't want to do things that they might seem or think to be boring. They want to have fun. They want to be outside. They want to be engaged. So that's definitely a good place to be. So I'm happy to share all those links with Nadia, and I'll share my presentation as well.
Yeah, please do share that. I think we have to think all in our club family of Rotary. We have a lot of our young children, our kids who are involved. Okay. And so I think that there could be some projects, the beginning of some projects for them, and for some of us and our relatives, and Kelly, we don't want to prolong your whole day. I know you enjoying being in this place. You couldn't believe that a place, an environment existed like this on Earth, but we understand. We just only give you a little taste now and then, just to whet your appetite.
Understood, and much appreciated.
Yeah, hopefully we'll hear from you. So on behalf of this great club, the Rotary Club of Nassau, we really want to thank you for this presentation. We know that it would, we have inwardly digested and it will do us all some good. So I'm going to make an attempt to come out on Saturday. Once I get the information, I'm going to be out there on Saturday.
All right, very good. And looking forward to seeing more of you. But thank you so much, President Stephen and other Rotarians for inviting me.